Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Kelly Driscoll. In this episode, you'll hear part one of my conversation with Amanda Hyberger, professor of music and former QEP director at Chattanooga State Community College. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Kelly Driscoll, and today I am thrilled to introduce Amanda Hyberger. Amanda is professor of music at Chattanooga State Community College, where she teaches the College Success for Fine Arts, ear training, and voice lessons, as well as serving as the college's Quality Enhancement Plan's director, which coordinates ePortfolio development for all students. Welcome, Amanda.
Welcome. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I have to tell you, since we've talked, the QEP has switched. I'm no longer the QEP director. So in case somebody looks me up, it's now in advising. And so it's switched,
wow.
And I was given the choir. So I'm back to flapping my arms.
That's amazing.
I know. So yes. So thankfully, that we passed our QEP. This project was.
So then you got to hand it off.
I did. I got to hand it off.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk about what that process was like in a little bit.
Okay.
I think our community, I know there's other folks that are involved with the QEP, and they would probably really benefit from hearing your story.
I went through the whole cycle.
I love it.
Yeah.
Because we've been working together now for over 10 years.
Right.
So you have quite a history with ePortfolio that you're welcome to share today.
Ask me what you will.
So I did warn Amanda before we started chatting that I wanted to take advantage of our time today to also just hear some more about her, because we've conversated many times, but it really has been just focused on ePortfolio. And I know that Amanda is an incredible human being based on the time that we've had together.
Oh, you're sweet.
And I know that she's deeply involved in music and singing. And so before we get into all of the ePortfolio things, I would love to just hear a little bit about your background and when you first got into music, and if it was always singing and the kind of singing that you're doing now. Could you please share that with us?
Sure. I am your classic PK pastor's kid, and I grew up singing in church. And so singing was very much a Southern gospel for me, which if you know that genre of music, we're very extroverted. So it was full out, but I did.
Your personality.
I know. So my parents both played instruments. My family sang together, and most of my uncles picked guitar. I mean, I would call it bluegrass, probably. But I fell in love with a person. That's funny. I didn't think we would talk about this today, but this is really the genesis of all of that. A person came to my elementary school and played some J.S. Bach for our class. And he said, you can buy this at the music store. And I didn't know that music existed. And I certainly didn't know I could go purchase it. So I saved up my money for a little cassette tape. And I went to the music store. I remember buying it. It was the Brandenburg Concertos of Bach. And I listened to it every night, 4, 5, and 6. And I did not hear those pieces again till grad school. But I just developed a love for classical music kind of off to the side. It was very strange. Yeah. And I didn't think about opera. I didn't really like the sound of it. And I still don't. I really sing more art song. I guess I really like hearing my students sing. I like young voices. I like helping them develop their voice. I like healthy singing, which is not happening a lot in our culture. So, I feel
How
like
do you define healthy singing?
Well, their culture's gotten so weird. like even myself, I was encouraged to really push the heaviness of my voice as a young singer, even in Southern gospel. And I found that, and then I was encouraged to sing really high in opera. And by the time I got to college, I had kind of a gap in my voice, which was
Mm,
destructive. And
okay.
my first teacher was a very gifted woman. It was in Austin P here in Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 2 years literally was repairing my voice and learning how to register and sing more in a what I would call a pre pop music world.
Mm-hmm.
And even
Mm-hmm.
some of, I mean, it's getting really technical, but some of the big German Wagner singing is too heavy for what most people can do. And we got used to hearing that. Halls got bigger, microphones. We expect all this volume from people, and it's not physically that conducive. So you see it sometimes, like Whitney Houston damaged her voice, and
Mm-hmm.
what a voice, like the voice of a century. And she ended up hurting herself. And different singers that you sometimes see. Julie Andrews, you know,
Right.
ended up with vocal surgery. So a lot of these pop singers can't maintain it. So I'm really passionate about helping young students learn what their voice does, what their max is, what their
Mm-hmm.
normal is, and being satisfied with that, and finding ways to do art, in more a way that I think for me that's worship, and that's how I connect it back to my faith. It's
Yeah.
because I think it's part of creation to sing naturally. Just like if I want to eat healthy, I eat healthy things, and I take care of
Mhm.
nature, I take care of my voice. So, um, anyway, so I'm finding that if I don't get, like, especially young women by 14 or 15, they're already starting down a very aggressive path that you have to convince them out of. So I've probably repaired. Every year I probably repair 5 or 6 voices.
How many students do you have at a time each
Um,
year?
I mean, I'm in a community college, so we don't have a ton of majors. We do have some because we have a full music major. We have several universities we work with, but usually 5 or 6 actual majors, and then voice majors. And then I usually keep a studio of about 10 other students. I try to get the high school students before that happens to them, because once I got to
Um,
college, it was too late. I really did suffer for a little while in college. I didn't get
yeah.
solos. I didn't win things
Mhm.
because of the things
Until
that were
you had
happening locally. Yeah.
done that
But
repair.
if I
Yeah.
hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't be sensitive to it and help other students.
Yeah, you may not be doing what you're
Well, I
doing
wouldn't.
now.
The most voice teachers don't focus on it as much. In my purview, the ones around me, they don't cringe as much as I do when I hear registration issues. So once you've felt it, there's pain, and I feel the pain that they're feeling, and
Yeah.
I know it's not fun to sing that way. So I'm really passionate about it. And then my teacher had to spend so much time with me fixing it. I know what the exercises are.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I was curious, and it makes sense. Having gone through that practice yourself, and what that pain was like, that you would want to support your students and remedying that before things get worse. It's interesting that you're finding that so many students are coming to you with that
Yeah, well, oddly,
issue.
the women are wanting to sing lower and lower,
Hmm.
and the men are wanting to sing higher and higher. So it's almost like this unisex voice in the middle.
Hmm.
So I'm getting more basses as well that are tone deaf or have
Mm.
no sense of where their voices are because they've spent their whole lives trying to sing high and their voice
Hmm.
doesn't fit, or they say they can't sing. So I get really inexperienced young bass singers with low self confidence. And so it's really happening on both ends, which is really sad. I mean, I think of like great choirs, have all the different voice types,
All the
Yeah,
range.
I mean, yeah. So we want that full array of sound. So anyway, hopefully that'll change.
Yeah. Well, everything kind of goes
I
through.
hope so. I know, it's like everybody wants to sing a solo all together with one guitar or something. I'm like, there's so much more.
Well, I'm
Anyway,
glad you're out there providing some
that's my
exposure.
passion right now. Well, it's been a long-term passion of mine, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
focusing on with my choir. Oh my heavens,
Yeah.
what a
So it
journey!
sounds like you've been involved with music from a very young age.
Yes.
At, at what point did you decide that you were going to kind of pursue this career in higher ed?
Well, I had that same situation that a lot of artists have, like their parents when they're growing up push them to excel in the arts. Like they want them in shows, they want them and then when they go to major, and then why are you majoring in that? That's all I've ever done. I don't even know if I could add hardly. I know that's what I do. So I had the same thing. And then it was like, you need to be a music ed major. So you go teach in a high school. That's the only job that they had, in their mind that was even possible. But I hated high school. And the only thing I hated more than high school was middle school. So I wasn't doing any of that.
I haven't met anybody that says middle school or
what a horrible time. Why would I want to put myself back in that environment? And people that love that, God bless them. But that was not me. So I sat down with a professor one day because I was arguing so much with my family and had a conversation. He said, do you want to teach elementary school? No. Do you want to teach middle school? No. Do you want to teach high school? No. You don't want an ed degree. I'm like, what does the other one do? Everything else music does. And I went, okay. And I didn't know what that was. I just knew that was the answer. So I realized that, to be employed, I had to have a doctorate if I wanted to teach. And I love to teach. I just didn't want to do crowd control. Right. I mean, I like to actually dig in a little bit at a higher level. So oddly enough, during COVID, I've been teaching preschool music once a week too, which
wonderful.
So my youngest student was 1 and my oldest student was 75. And so that's super fun. But I was right. That's not something I would have wanted to do with my whole life, but it's nice now that I'm older and wiser, I can see the benefits of all of it, and I don't get worked up about it, but.
So have you always been at Chattanooga State Community College, or were you teaching other places before?
I started teaching even in my undergrad. They allowed me to teach continuing ed lessons. I expressed an interest, so that's when that started. And then I had graduate assistantships at Nebraska, Lincoln, and at University of Iowa. And so I learned to teach, being monitored by good faculty. That was very helpful. And then I taught at a community college in next to Iowa City in a small town. And then I taught at Lee University here in Cleveland, but that was adjunct. And so Chat State was my first full-time, when I got my paycheck, it resembled something that I could live off of, It's a long time. It was a long time that's a long time by the time you go to school, and it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a long haul. It really isn't. It's no joke. But no, I'm very thankful to have found a full-time job. I know many musicians that haven't. And so it is tough.
Oh.
But I'm fortunate that way. But yeah, I've been teaching at Chat State since 2007.
Okay.
Is when I started there full-time. And I became QEP director, 2009. They put me on that committee because I was the newbie.
Okay, so that was another question I had.
I had a target on my head that said newbie.
It was like joyfully teaching music.
It was bizarre. It's a bizarre journey.
With the QEP. Okay. So 2009, I
was put on a committee my second year, and I didn't realize it, but I mean, Chat State has had a lot of political upheaval since I've been employed. We've had a lot of presidents do this and out, and then
not alone in that.
No, and a lot of vice presidents, and so QEP was kind of new, right? It was our first cycle of QEP, so nobody wanted to touch it. It was kind of this Sachs was making everybody do it. Nobody wanted to do it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't even know I was still learning half the acronyms on the college. And this was literally what I was told. Amanda's fun. They want someone from every division. Send Amanda.
Okay.
So I got I got put on this committee because I was fun. Probably not the best word.
You are fun.
I'm super fun. And then what happened was through that committee work, I think that actually started in 2008, the committee work. I wasn't there very long. I ended up writing half of the QEP document because nobody else would write it. Yeah. I mean, faculty love to get together and talk and wordsmith, and they'll argue about one paragraph for 5 days. And we were up against a time clock. So I spent a summer writing for free because I just
felt the need to get it done.
Somebody needed to get it done. And I don't know. Some of the ideas that were getting traction were mine. So I felt like I should, if I was going to put forth ideas, I should back them up with the work. And I'm kind of a worker bee. So then that got me in trouble. That put me in a world I didn't think I'd ever be in.
Yes, I bet. So you got started with the QEP. I'm guessing some of these ideas of yours that started to get traction may have led to some conversations about ePortfolio.
They did. Our thing was about work ethic. We really felt like the bulk of our students could succeed if they put forth good effort and had good behavior patterns, like good they were self-sabotaging in many ways, just by, not coming or, so we put together kind of a unified statement across campus of what work ethic looked like to us. And we felt like this is what we wanted our students to emulate. And we would put those attributes into different classes and different assignments, a lot of teamwork. We went through our employers, what they said they were seeing in our students that they needed more of, and teamwork and productivity were coming up really high, just showing up on time, those types of things. So we were working that kind of thing. And I had read about ePortfolio, and I hated Facebook already because so in my mind, ePortfolio was Facebook. I mean, that's what I thought it was. And I was very reluctant to do it. I didn't see any use for that. I've never been big into just sitting and writing about yourself and, that kind of way. And so I was reluctant to it. But then when we got to our SACS visit, Terry Rhodes was from AACNU, was our QEP specialist, or over the QEP evaluation. And so I was sitting at this table.
So great. You got connected to him.
Yeah. For some reason, the vice president, we were able to snag him. And I'm not even sure how all that worked out, but literally I'm at this crazy table where it's all vice presidents and board members. And I am the lowly junior faculty. I'm the only one that I have no idea how I got this table, but I'm like this junior faculty member sitting there, and they were all talking, and Terry Rhodes looked across the table at me, and he kind of like Obi-Wan Kenobi looks in your soul. This is not the one you seek. It was that kind of moment. I mean, I'll never forget the look in his face. And he said, "You want portfolio. You need ePortfolio." And I remember saying, "I need ePortfolio." And he said, "You want ePortfolio." I said, "Hey."
Okay, yes, I do.
Yes, talking directly. I was not the QEP director. I had been given no authority. It was very strange situation to even be there. And since then, I've done like 3 SACS visits.
Yeah.
I finally just started turning them down because I'm like this faculty member. I'm not in the club, and I don't want to be in the club. The club is
taking a break from the club.
The club is not a fun week. And so, I mean, I'm not serving in that way. So there's no benefit for me going and learning that some more. But no, after that, what I did was I took it more to heart. We were working on a survey tool that I hated with a passion, and I wanted rid of. And so I had to get some other way to get evidence for our QEP to get rid of the survey tool. So I started working on portfolio just as a way to get rid of this other thing. So I went to that AACNU conference, and I sat in the Digication workshop for 2 days that they did from, why can't I remember, LaGuardia.
Yes.
Put it on. And they were super nice. There was an English teacher presenting that I never saw her again, any of the conferences, but she was presenting that day. And she was super nice. And she even sat with me for a lunch, about 3 hours, and helped me envision my project, which was super sweet of her to do, because I'm sure she was a very busy woman. But
she was from LaGuardia?
She was an English professor. And I'm sorry, I don't remember her name. But she was going on sabbatical. And so she's like, I won't be available for the next 2 years. So you got 3 hours.
Let me tell you everything I know.
Yeah.
That is so sweet.
She was very, very sweet. And I think because she came from my kind of wheelhouse, the humanities area, she was able to talk in a way that I could talk. And of course, LaGuardia started theirs in their art department, the artists. And so all of that kind of, I had an affinity for that. So I went home from that. That's why we started a kind of a trial. I knew I wanted education, but I had to fake some sort of search, and the search only made it more obvious. Well, you can walk through a conference and see the different screens.
Yeah.
I mean, they make you go through these long, drawn out procedures to tell you the thing you knew instinctively, which is okay, great. But so we formed a committee, we had our tech guys look at it. And so Digication was the clear winner. And, we had to do that. We had constant barrage of other portfolio companies trying to be our portfolio company. It was so annoying. It was the whole time I was doing it. Every textbook, in-house, local things, trying to be a portfolio and offer enough for free. We were going to be their test pilot school for free. It was so time consuming for me to fight them off. Hopefully that's died down some.
I don't know. I still hear from...
It's horrible. Then we go belly up the next year, and you're just like, please leave me alone. It's just like, faculty would come find me and go, there's another portfolio trying to get on ground. I'm like, please stop. But that's kind of how it started, and I didn't really understand it until I did a little test pilot in that first 2010.
Yeah, I remember the
early test. I know. I had a little class of just a few music majors, and this group of class, most of these guys were drug addicts. I mean, I'm serious.
Oh no.
It was a particularly bad performing group of students, super sweet kids, even talented. Like, they played their instruments pretty well, but they didn't love school at all. And they just always looked high. They were like, you would hand back a failing grade and they go, cool. There was no emotion.
Not in a good place.
No, there was just apathy. Like, it was unbelievable. And you just couldn't get any reaction out of them. You didn't know where to start. I haven't had that, except for there's a couple class groups in that period of time. But anyway, we got in the room, and the goal was just to start a portfolio. We were going to log on, and they were going to start their homepage, and they were going to write a paragraph about themselves. And we had an hour to do it. And I sat and watched these guys with this blinking cursor, and they could not do it. They could not write a paragraph about themselves. And I was over there trying to help them. Because what are they going to type? I love to do drawings. I don't care if I pass. I mean, they had nothing positive. They hadn't thought about that. And it was profound for me. And I left that room going, I get it now. I got it, because I watched the struggle. And I actually heard one of them say to the other one, this is really hard. And then I saw why it wasn't social media, because their pages can't fill up. There's nothing else. There's nothing from the outside coming to fill the space.
Right. There's no noise.
Yes. And I think that's what happens in a lot of social media. They feel like they're having these full lives because the pages get full, when actually there's such emptiness. And their emptiness was really apparent. And it was a starting place for us to have a conversation finally. And
Yeah.
that was really interesting to me. And so I saw that play out over and over and over again. That's the day I got really interested in it and passionate about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because I saw that if a student can say like their purpose, why they're pursuing something, or why they care about something, what they're good at, what they need to work on, if they have that self acknowledgement and their
Yeah. Like they
reflection,
have value.
yeah,
They have
and that they're
value.
looking outside themselves and taking stock of where they are, they could not do it. And so I was really excited after that point. But that was probably a 2-year process for me. My first, like, what's an ePortfolio to, oh my heavens, that was interesting. So
Yeah.
that was a really
Yeah.
long answer to that. I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. No, and it's a really interesting story to me too, because when Jeffrey Ann and I started creating Digication, we were teaching at Rhode Island School of Design, and I was working with the MAT students in the education program, and they were all there with a very clear
Yeah.
purpose and already had an understanding of their strengths and abilities when it came to art making or design, and they were there to now add teaching to their skill set, or advance some skills that they already had in that area. But then when I started teaching in undergraduate classes at Bryant University, I had a similar. I was teaching a course that was like a combination of. It was basically like digital media tools, or
Yep.
something, that broad. And but one of the things I was going to have them do throughout that course, while I was introducing them things, was to create this ePortfolio. And Digication was in its very early days there, but we still had ways for the students to put up images and talk about themselves and reflect on the projects that they had done, and they could share it with each other and comment and things. But I found the same thing, that when I asked the students to put any kind of writing about themselves or to bring in work that they were doing from other classes that they wanted to share as part of their portfolio, you would continually get this kind of, well, I don't know what would people want to know about me? I haven't done anything. And I was like,
Right.
what do you mean? That cannot be true.
Right.
And, so as a class, we would have to spend some time just, basically doing some storytelling and sharing with each other. And, with they were probably all, 18 to 20 years old or so. So there was like a certain level of sharing, they'd have to kind of navigate how much they wanted to, let their, exterior presentation of themselves before they'd really say anything, personal that they cared about, their passions and hobbies and things like that. But as soon as they would start telling these stories about themselves, other kids in the room and me also would be like, this is exactly the kind of thing
Right.
that you should put in your ePortfolio. Like, this tells a story of why you've chosen to study these things,
Right.
like not necessarily this course. I know this is an extracurricular that you probably just got lost into. But why you may want to study marketing and communications or,
Right.
whatever you wanted to do. So, but yeah, it was the first time that I had been working with students where I was like, oh, wow. So it's not just this ability for them to be able to reflect on their learning, but they really need this opportunity to understand, like, they have real experiences that other people want to hear about. They have done things that are valuable. They
Mhm.
are important people, and that this time that they have in college is not just like a, something to bounce off to get to, become this person later. Like, this is all happening right now.
Well, and it's not just an opportunity to memorize and take a bunch of tests. It's about learning where your strengths are, and learning to articulate them. I mean, you have to do that. And that, what you were talking about, brings up probably one of the major back and forth that I've had with my faculty over the years when we were really, portfolio was in a new and, more stable stage. Is like, we would have, like, I still teach college success, fine arts, and my favorite assignment in this area is called Inspiration Journal. And they have to make a page in their portfolio. And the requirements are they have to have something of their own artwork. Doesn't matter what it is, something of their own. They have to talk about what inspires them, and it has to be mixed media. So it can't just be a bunch of text, and it can't just be a bunch of pictures they have to write. And so I get some interesting things for sure, and they agonize over it, and then they have to present it. They have to stand up and present it to the class. So I get crazy stuff. Like, I've had everything from a guy who likes to take pictures of him smoking a cigar and change the colors, like, and like tattoo artists. Like, I mean, I've learned a lot about the students through doing that. But then I have a group of my faculty, the portfolios will have like a running giraffe across it. And they're like, Amanda, why do you let them make portfolios that look so crazy? And I'm like, they're freshmen. Yeah. Like, I just want them in there wanting to put something on there. And they're testing me. They're seeing what I'm going to tolerate.
Right.
They're seeing if it's going to be a test. And is this really the right answer? And I'll go behind them. I'm like, I love giraffes. Wow.
Especially when they're running.
Especially running and like so colorful. Awesome. Like, whatever, you do you. And but they wanted a finished portfolio. They want all the students to make every page look like they're going to graduate.
Yeah, like, more like that polished.
Yes. And showcase. Like, you can't have the showcase before you have the
ask of the
learning part. And they have to develop some sort of sense of having fun in here before they know, and then one day, hopefully, they'll look back and go, maybe I should take the running giraffe out. But or maybe not. Maybe you're going to be in a certain business where that works really well. But we went back and forth with faculty. Like, there'd be some pretty good arguments about just being so militant and just really stifling with what they put in. And I just kind of let it be a free for all, as long as they're within a few boundaries. Because otherwise, if I don't say it has to be their own artwork, I get fan pages of this. Right. Yeah, and I'm like, it's not a fan page, so you can have other artists on here, but it has to be about you and why you like them. And then you have to have yourself featured. And then I'm like, no, I didn't ask for a fan page of Drake or whatever. I'm glad you like him. And I'm like, and I'm such a classical artist. I don't even know who these people are. And I sit there and I'm looking around and everybody knows except for me. And I'm like, wow, I'm old and I just like the music of dead people. And I'm just like, well, okay. I don't even know who that is.
I get to teach you too.
I know. I learned so much through this assignment.
This concludes part 1 of our conversation. To hear part 2, be sure to subscribe to Digication Scholars Conversations on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Digication Scholars Conversations is brought to you by Digication, a technology platform powering the most innovative ePortfolio programs in K-12 and higher education. Our website can be found at digication.com. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for tuning in.